Hey guys, in this video we're going to cover how to quantize audio to tighten up the timing in Cubase 12. This will be a brief video on how to use the AudioWarp feature. Before continuing, make sure you've checked out our previous videos in this series where we went over audio recording and setting up MIDI. Also keep in mind that the AudioWarp feature is only included with the paid Artist and Pro versions of Cubase 12, so look at what version you're using if you're following along. For these techniques, it's going to work best if you're using a track with a lot of dynamics between the notes, meaning there's a lot of level differences between the start and trailing points of the waveform, as that gives us something to lock onto. This will work great for things like drums and bass, but not so much for things like piano or a strummed acoustic guitar. To get started, I've recorded my bass track through my Avid 11 rack and a drum track with the Akai MPK249 MIDI keyboard. After recording the drums, I used the MIDI quantization tools we covered in the last video to adjust them to the grid and use the soft quantization of 80% so they don't go all the way and still have a little bit of variability to them. Let's play the clips back. There are some points where the timing doesn't lock as well as I would like. There's a few ways that Cubase 12 allows us to fix this. Of course, if none of these work, one solution would be to re-record the track, but that's not always possible, so let's cover how to adjust the timing. The first way is just to select the audio track that we want to quantize and use the Quantize tool with AudioWarp enabled in the top panel. We set this to our project's note resolution, and we can use the soft Quantize tool to make sure we leave a little bit of variability to it. The other way is through the clip editor at the bottom using the AudioWarp tools in the left zone to manually shift the start of each beat. Last, we can use the Quantize tool but manually intervene to adjust the hit points that it's using. The way audio quantization works is fairly similar to with MIDI. From the project zone, we need to select the clip we want to edit, then go to the Quantize window in the top panel. If it's not there, it might not be available in your version of Cubase. From there, we go to the Quantize toolbar and press the E button to open the Quantize window. When I'm applying quantization, I try and focus in on some of the areas of the track that sound like they need quantization applied. I don't like using a shotgun approach and applying it to the entire clip. Although it can make certain parts sound better, it can just as easily make other parts sound worse that were already good. The way we get around this is to use the range selection tool in the toolbar to select an area of the time that you think needs quantization applied to it. Then use that selection from the quantization menu to apply the AudioWarp without applying it to the rest of the track. The Quantize tool works the same as in the previous video when we were quantizing MIDI. First, you need to set the note value that you're quantizing to. In this case, my fastest note is an eighth note. You don't want to be using a longer or shorter note than what you're playing, or it will snap inappropriately to those notes and make the song sound even more off. Next, we can set up the catch range that notes will be adjusted in. If we set this, it will only snap notes within that percentage of the grid, and notes that are farther off are considered to be out of the quantization range. We can also set a safe zone within the catch range where notes that are closer to the grid are considered close enough and not snapped. That way we can pick up notes that are more off, and the other ones that are close are left alone. With quantization, we want to tighten things up, but not overdo it, as it could actually ruin the performance. The swing tool is just used to shift the timings throughout the measures. With AudioWarp quantization, I always like to apply it minimally and use soft quantize with 60 to 80%. I don't want to snap every note fully to the grid. With that done, we absolutely have to select the AudioWarp button in the bottom middle for it to quantize an audio track. To apply it, just press the Quantize button and it will apply to our track. With the Auto Quantize tool, I find it often doesn't pick up hit points properly with the default settings, making it snap notes to the wrong time and usually making the track worse. Another way we can adjust the timing of our recordings is with the free warp tool. To access this, we need to click on our audio clip to activate it. Then in the top right, make sure to open the bottom zone and the left zone so they're activated. From there, select the editor view in the bottom of the left zone. There we can use AudioWarp and select the free warp tool. The free warp tool is used to stretch and shrink certain areas of our audio track. All we do is click on a point on the waveform where our note is and drag it to the position we want. The problem is, now we're stretching everything on either side of the waveform note to get it in the right spot. To fix this, add warp points on either side of the note and then just add a warp point at the start of the note. Then we can adjust the note time and it will stretch and compress areas with reference to the other points without affecting the entire track. This works great in this case as there's just empty space around these notes. The last way we're going to quantize the audio is an adjustment on the last techniques we used. We can use the AudioWarp quantization tool in the top panel, but adjust it a little bit more manually to make sure we tell Cubase 12 where all our notes are. We do this from the editor view on the left, like when we were using the free warp tool. Then we go down and open the hit points menu. What we do first is set the threshold low enough so that it will get all the peaks of our note starts, then adjust the intensity to set which notes are detected. We can then use the Edit Hit Points tool on the left to manually select hit points and lock them so that they won't disappear based on the threshold or intensity changing. To do this, I switched the Audio Editor tool to the Draw mode since I had trouble when starting with the range selector, and then use the Edit Hit Points button in the left zone. Now I can click the top of a diamond along the timeline to lock the hit points and move it in time. With the hit points locked, they will turn blue, and we can also click and drag on them to move them to the start of each note on the waveform. Make sure the hit points line up with the waveform and not the grid, because it's the hit points that we want to move and the waveform that we want to snap to the grid once we quantize. If we need to disable a hit point, we can just click it twice to remove it. Only the hit points with the vertical line over the waveform are detected, and the rest of them are disabled. To add a hit point manually, just hold down the Alt key on the keyboard while in the Edit Hit Points mode, and click to a point on the audio clip where you want it to be added. You can also hold down Shift and click on a hit point in this mode to delete it. I'm just going to go ahead and add hit points to the beginning of this clip for now, but if you're doing this for your track, you may want to add hit points for the entire track if you plan on quantizing all of it. I'm also doing this quite quickly, so if it's an important track, make sure to spend as much time as you need to get it perfect. From there, use the range selector tool at the top to select the time range that you want to quantize. Then use the top panel in the project view to select the quantize menu with the E button to its right. I'll set it to soft quantize, and I like to use 60 to 80%, but set it to your preference. Then make sure you have AudioWarp selected so it will work with audio recordings. You can also adjust the safe zone, capture zone, and swing if needed, but I'll leave those at defaults. When it's all set how you'd like, you can apply the quantization in the bottom right of the window, and our tracks should now lock together better. Then you can just play it back to see if it's an improvement and make any changes as needed. Thanks for checking out this video on AudioWarp and audio quantization in Cubase 12. If this video helped you out, don't forget to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon to get notifications whenever a new video is released. You can also check out the video description for links to social media accounts to keep up to date on all our new content.